and gentlemen, would you please stand? Please be seated. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Susan Gavran, and I'm the celebrant who has been asked to conduct this very special service here today. And I would like to thank all of Noreen's family for entrusting me with this celebration of her life. Thank you all. Well, family and friends, we have all been brought together here today to farewell, but also, just as importantly, to remember, reflect and celebrate the life of our dearly loved Noreen Teresa Baker, or Mum and Tana, as she was also known to family. Noreen has moved on from this life, a life lovingly shared with everyone here, from her adoring family members to her special and close friends. Today, seemingly numbed by the pain of her loss, we can't imagine how to make this very special service for Noreen say all the things we really want it to say. But we shouldn't try to do that here today, because our lifetime of experiences and, of course, emotions couldn't possibly convey everything that we do feel in our hearts. But let today help remind us all that we can continually, in our everyday lives, show her and give thanks to Noreen for everything she truly meant to those who knew and loved her. I hope today we will all be uplifted and enlightened as we're reminded of the truly wonderful person that Noreen was to us all. Let us bring to mind the part of her that she so willingly gave to us. But I think just as importantly, we should all be reminded of the Noreen that will go on living in all of us. I know Noreen would not want her family and friends gathered here today to mourn her loss, but rather that we spend this time together reflecting on her life and, of course, remembering the cherished moments that we were all fortunate enough to share with her. Well, as we know, Noreen was certainly loved by many throughout her life, but none more so than by her family. In life, she was a much-loved daughter to her late parents, Arthur and Louise, a dearly loved sister to her siblings, Arthur, Jacob, Rosie, Nellie, Thomas, Army or Tony, Navy or Henry, and of course Noreen herself, plus two additional children who became her much-loved siblings, Tussie and Sonny. She was a beloved wife to her late husband Valentine, a much-loved and cherished mother and mother-in-law to her late son John and his wife Gail, daughter Laurie, Russell and Anne, Marty, Darren and Liz, and Alex and Tina. An adored grandmother to Rush, Zoe, Holly, Natalie, Delia, Lenny and Xander, and a much-loved great-grandmother to Talia and Jackson. Now, to mention all of Noreen's friends throughout her life here today would simply be impossible. But those lucky enough to call Noreen a friend in life certainly know how fortunate and blessed they are. Now, we acknowledge that there are family and friends who sadly can't be with us at this time, many of whom are in New Zealand, but we welcome every family member that is joining us via the live streaming at this time, and we want you to feel very much a part of this celebration of Noreen's life. I know that the family would also like to extend a heartfelt thank you to those who have travelled to be here today, and also for the wonderful messages of love and support. I know it's helped make this difficult time for the family just that little bit easier knowing that you're there for them, so thank you all. So we come together today to share and to speak of Noreen's life through the eyes of her loving family. And I think it only appropriate now that I invite her grandchildren to come forward to share with us Noreen's story.
The islands and their history. Tana was born in Apia on the island of Apollo, Western Samoa. Although there were 9 children in her family, her parents adopted out another 2, which just goes to show the fact that Samoans, especially back then, really liked having big families. Tana loved to climb mango trees when she was small and eat the green ones, which gave her a stomach ache, but she ate them all the same.
Her father was a smart man. Papa was sent to school in New Zealand because his father wanted him to have an education. He worked for the US Navy during the Second World War as an electrical engineer and repaired damaged submarines. Tana grew up in an island paradise, but the world outside that paradise was changing rapidly. And Papa knew that. So not long after the war, he packed up the family and took them to live in New Zealand, where he thought more opportunities would present themselves for his children.
Tana was in her late teenage years when they left Samoa. Auckland was different from Apia, but the family settled in. Tana fell in love with a British sailor and became pregnant to him, but the family disapproved and sent him away and told him never to return. She gave birth to her first son, John, and then she met Valentine. They married and they had a daughter, Laurie, before deciding to move back to Australia.
They settled in Sydney and she started working as a stenographer as they saved money for their own house. They had 4 more children, Russell, Marty, Darren and Alex. For the first couple of years they lived with Val's mother, Irene, in Lidcombe before going in search of their own home. Valentine joked years later about how they'd started looking in Paddington, but all the houses were old and terrible and had no yards. So they bought instead in Western Sydney in a suburb called Rooty Hill. They built a home on a 1/4-acre block and joined all the other migrants and other working class people looking for an opportunity in this ancient continent.
Rooty Hill was a melting pot back then, as it is today. The great wave of post-World War II migration saw Western Sydney fill up with people from Greece, Italy, Russia, Turkey, England, Yugoslavia and Vietnam. The Mount Druitt area also had one of the highest populations of Indigenous people in Sydney and still does. Back then, there were few Samoans or islanders living in Rooty Hill. Tana missed her family, but she was forging her own path. She was proud to have a home so close to the schools and shops, and she loved her home, where she could bring up her children her way. Valentine was the breadwinner, but Tana ran the home. Speaking of home, here's a video of Tana, an interview that Darren did back in 2011 in the backyard at Rooty Hill, because in the end, it's probably best if we have an opportunity to hear about Tana's life from her.
Yeah, I like this photo.
Tell me what you like about that photo. What do you like so much about that photo?
Well, because ever seen a photo of my father when he was younger? My grandparents and my aunts and uncles. And I think this photo was taken when my father came back from New Zealand, where he went to school since he was a small boy. My grandfather's parents were German and Irish. I forget now which is the Irish and which is the German. But he looks German, doesn't he? Pa? He was a very hard working man. He owned 2 motorbikes. And he tear around the villages on a motorbike. The villagers used to be really scared of him with the motorbike because they've never seen a motorbike before. And he had 2. That's my papa. That's my father. I'm very proud of my father. He was a hard-working man too, having 9 children. He used to work. He was like his father, very hard-working. Tried to educate us, all of us. And he was a very smart man, my father. Some people don't realize how smart Papa was, because they don't understand his work. And he doesn't, and he's not a show-off. He's a bit shy. He's a bit sit back like Lecky, say nothing. Yeah. They're not all there. There's about 4 or 5 of them dead by the time we were born. Auntie Annie's not there, of course. I can't say that. Can I?
What's that?
Auntie Annie's not there.
Oh, she's not in there?
See here, that's Willie Beetham. That's my cousin. That's the son she had with Beetham.
With the warden?
No, Beetham. The one who's... I don't want to say this. No?
So tell me about him. The beat.
Well, don't. I don't want to. Well, that's a Beetham. That's her father, his father, that died.
Who was his father?
What was his father? Willie Beetham. They called him William Beetham too. Auntie Annie and Uncle Willie had 1 son. That's him. Well, he shouldn't have died because he got shot in the leg. And it took 3 days and nobody did anything about it. Nobody that knew anything about bullet wounds and stuff like that. He shouldn't have. It was an accident.
Go back to the beginning. What happened?
This is how I heard it from my other aunties. Anyway, she must have known there was something going on. She knows Celia up there. And she went to town on the horse and buggy. And she came back. She left the horse and buggy in somebody's and walked back to the house. And that's when she caught him with the maid. That's not very nice, honey.
Yeah, and so she caught him.
Yes. And she scared him. My aunt said she just scared him with her, but the gun went off and hit him on the leg. It was on the leg. But as I said, doctors those days couldn't fix anything, and I got gangrene. So, well, and he died. Took it about 3 or 4 days.
What happened to Auntie?
Then she went to jail. Yeah, she went to jail and had she had a daughter in jail to the police commissioner. Yep. Her name was Buki. And then the grandparents took Buki and took care of her and raised her as their own. Yeah.
Down near the old wood pile, round about midnight, was when I caught my husband with someone else's wife. I drew out my pistol, I saw red and fired. I only meant to wound him, but he bled so much he died. They put me in the slammer, but it didn't do much good. It seems the chief inspector, he was kinder than he should. Judgment is what replaces love. The fugitive kind will always run. Seems every day I sleep to wake, try not to make the same mistakes. I try to keep my eyes inside my head.
I remember the time when the Marines came, when the Yankees arrived in Samoa. We're the only ones. My grandfather, he built a shower outside his home. And all the Yankees he had no option. He didn't want it, but the government said they have to because he had so much land. They have to camp there. Oh, they put up their canteen, they put up this, and they put up this and that. So he agreed to that. Pa agreed. He said, till even my father was laughing. He said, till the time they wanted to have a shower, and they came beeline up to the shower, all naked. My grandfather went out with a gun and shot. I really, oh my goodness me. They knew he was going to shoot them if they didn't go and put any clothes on. Oh, that was really funny. Even my father was laughing. He said, oh. All lined up to come to the bath with no clothes on. So Pa got, because in his bedroom, all his rifles are lined up on the wall, and nobody touches it. She looked over. Here comes the line of naked men. She grabs a gun and boom, and they all rushed. Right, went back to the camp to put their clothes on. Oh, I'll never forget that. And my father came. Oh, my father laughed his head off. Serve the son of a bitches right. Yeah. He would have killed them too if they didn't go back and put their clothes on. That was really, really funny. That they thought. They didn't know my grandfather, you know. They thought, oh, he's a bloody, don't take any notice, you know. Shoot, bang. Ooh, running out to the camp. And yeah, we all went because we all live around. And their captain or whatever, he came and talked. Or he was ready to blow Pa up. And Pa was ready to blow him up. What do you want? How dare you let those people? I've got a family all around me and you let them walk around? Anyway, he went back outside. He didn't come inside. Because Pa was saying, what do you want? He went back. Oh, that was funny. That was really, should have put that in a movie. Oh, boy, did we laugh. We laughed for days over that. We laughed for days, and then, we were talking to ourselves. Oh, why didn't he let them come so we could have a look? If my grandfather had heard that, they would have smacked us like... Oh, it's good to talk about that, Yeah. Now that I'm old too, and yeah, there isn't. You better go check the boy. Is it finished now, eh? Huh? Yeah, well, we've been talking a lot. We've got enough, eh? We've got enough to do well.
Such beautiful, beautiful memories, and how lovely to see and hear Noreen. Well, now I'd like to invite Darren to share his special words for Mum. Thanks, Darren.
Glasses go around. Firstly, I want to say talo for lava to everyone, and thank you everybody for coming, and to the family back home in New Zealand, and to all the family and who have made it here today, and friends. So thank you very much. I'm going to begin with the lyrics from a song. It's a song written by Nick Lowe. And the lyrics are, "The beast in me is caged by frail and fragile bars, restless by day and by night, rants and rages at the stars. God help the beast in me. The beast in me has had to learn to live with pain and how to shelter from the rain, and in the twinkling of an eye might have to be restrained. God help the beast in me. Sometimes it tries to kid me that it's just a teddy bear, or even somehow manage to vanish in the air. Then that is when I must beware of the beast in me. The beast in me that everybody knows. They've seen him outdressed in my clothes, patently unclear if it's New York or New Year. God help the beast in me. I remember a dream that I had as a child. I was quite young, maybe 10. In the dream, I was in my bed and the sound of electrical static filled the house. The sound built, and the more it built, the more it filled me with a terrible dread, and inevitably was driving it, what it was driving at. Then suddenly, and without any logical reason, I knew the sound of the static was Mum being electrocuted. I awoke terrified. I was in exactly the same position as I'd been in the dream, and the fear of the dream would not leave me. I was scared to my wits' end that somehow it was not a dream, and that Mum had somehow been electrocuted and that she was dead. It was a moment filled with loneliness and desolation, a moment trapped in the darkness of night and with her no longer here. On another occasion, I remember Mum being up late one night when the beast in her was out, prowling the night, looking to lay a glove or make her mark. This particular night, it was existential Noreen that sat down next to me as I tried to go to sleep. I can't recall how old I was, but again, probably less than 10. One day I'll be dead. I need you to understand this, son. You need to understand that I won't be here, and you'll have to make your way in this world. And there's no way of escaping this. Remember this. We all die, son. You have to face this. I was crying. I told her to stop talking like this. But she was in a mood to speak to the stars and the night skies. But the days also shone bright for Mum. Her fierce character meant nearly all things she attacked with fire. She loved Christmas because she loved to shower us with tiny gifts, and she loved most of all that we were together, and that she could sit back for a moment and survey what she once described as her art, her children. In us and through us, she magnified the world and condensed it as well. She saw into us and through us because in her own truly suburban Samoan way, she saw and lived what we all know but barely articulate. We carry our own and each other's destinies in our blood. It courses through us. It is what bears us, and it is the only true curse that we can never remove. Funerals should not be about balancing the ledger. It is not necessary to say someone was good. Moments like these, for me, articulate a deeper and more profound opportunity in a manner that seeks each and every one of us to grasp what we have and what we want to still find in this time that we call our lives. Mum was often profoundly present to me, and there were times when she was reconciling with the beasts in herself. The fragile bars of Mum's life opened often, and for some it became too difficult to bear. Her children knew this better than most, and it affected us all, but not in the same way. And no family ever lives without this painful truth residing somewhere in its core. "You better get a God," she yelled at John and I one night, both of us laughing as she tore strips off us in one of her existential flights. We both loved it when she got on a roll. You could feel the force shifting in her, the glint in her eye, the tiger about to smile. "You think because you go to uni and write things you're special. And you think," pointing at John, "you think because you strum a few notes you're a big shot. Well, you're nothing." And she was right. What she was saying is that what you do in life, all these things you do to fill up your days, is in a way meaningless because, as Tom Waits would say, we're all going to be just dirt in the ground. Noreen was a modern woman in the true sense of the word. She insisted on being educated back in Samoa, much to her mother's chagrin. She didn't want to be a good village girl. She wanted an education because she saw that her father, Papa, had been educated, and that in education she could create her own borders, her own horizons. And so she was educated, becoming a stenographer and learning not one but two languages in shorthand. Papa loved that she wanted to learn, and that was all he ever wanted from his children, which is all really that any parent wants from their own children. Learn, explore the world, be inquisitive, and push yourself, not to please others, but because a life of the mind is the only real freedom that anyone ever really possesses. When she saw the block of land in Rooty Hill back in the late 1950s, She knew it was where she wanted a home. It sat less than 200 metres from both the primary and the high schools. Education for her was what she wanted. For her children was what she wanted. The other lesson she never ceased articulating to us, through actions rather than words, was the importance of love, the need for it, and the necessity of having to continue to explore it and all of its imperfections in spite of everything. Over the last year or so, she and I spent most of our time sitting together, me feeding her oysters or fish that I'd cooked for her. She articulated regrets. She said she had tried and that she had failed at things, that she missed her daughter, that she missed her son, and that in her own words, she hadn't always been a good mother. I said to her that it's okay to have regrets because it means you aimed high, but you didn't quite hit the mark, something we all do, and we'll keep on doing as a species for however long our species survives. She gave me a look which said, "Don't try and teach your mother how to suck eggs, even on her deathbed." We laughed at each other and had some more oysters. I know one thing Mum would really want me to say before we finish this. She would want me to remind you that she held a fierce love for her family, that she never gave up on them. She loved her Samoan childhood, and her heritage burned incandescent in her at times, the far Samoan way, even when it infuriated her. And that her brothers and sisters and her parents were the stuff of legend. She was the last of her generation, the end of her family circle. And now the stories of their lives and deeds become ours. And it is for us to carry them forth into the world. I'll close with something she said late one night, perhaps at a card night, late, when the cards had paused so someone could go to the toilet or a cigarette or because there'd been an argument, and everyone had to cool down. She surveyed the table where we were all seated and lifted her hand, gently as she liked to do, and passed it through the air, like she was blessing the congregation. "You," she said, "you are my story."
Thank you so much, Darren, for those most beautiful and moving words. Well, those of us who shared life with Noreen, I know will always remember her, each in our own very individual and deeply personal way. It might be a thought or a feeling, or even something of Noreen that we may see in our own reflection. Whatever it may be, hold on to it, because if we can do that, then Noreen will always remain with us. Well, before I conclude some of the final parts of Noreen's service here this morning, I know the family have invited everyone to join them back at Darren and Liz's home in Marrickville, where they'd love you all to come back and share some of those wonderful stories and memories of your time spent with Noreen, with all of her loving family. Well, our dearest Noreen, Mum and Tana, you were known and adored by so many throughout your life. and bound by all the same love here today, we say now our farewell. The memory of you, Noreen, will live on in all our hearts always. We have only to think of you or to hear your name to remind us that you will always be near, eternally and immeasurably loved. We give thanks for Noreen's life today as we return her earthly body back to nature's keeping. Noreen, we are all better people having shared in your life. You'll never be forgotten, for each thought of you will bring to mind wonderful memories of our time shared. Noreen, your life we honour, and your memory we all cherish. In grief at your death, but in gratitude for your life and for the privilege of sharing life with you, we say thank you and farewell. Rest now at the end of your days, Noreen. Rest in the hearts and minds of those who love you. May you finally be reunited with your beloved Valentine once more as you rest in eternal peace. Family and friends, would you please stand as we conclude the service with a final piece of music. Family and friends, anyone that would like to come forward to say a final goodbye, you're welcome to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, please follow the family from the chapel.